Arcadian is a low-budget horror movie about a post-apocalyptic world starring Nic Cage and featuring some crazy, incomprehensible monsters, so it was bound to be at least halfway decent. But while I enjoyed chunks of this movie, I couldn't help but feel that it left me wanting a little bit more. Like there was some legwork to this narrative that the writers either didn't want to do or didn't have the budget to pull off. So this is a spoiler warning. If you haven't seen Arcadian and you're looking for a very solid monster movie with some good performances and some not so good camera work, go check it out and come back to this video. Arcadian is an original movie with some unique ideas, and so it's absolutely worth watching on your own. But with that said, I'm going to spoil a few things, so this is your last chance to go watch it. Okay, so right away, let's start with the positives. The monster design in this movie is awesome. You can't have an effective end-of-the-world thriller if you don't have a strong monster to hang your hat on, and Arcadian delivers in that department. I love how weird and almost Lovecraftian the design is, because even as this monster is slowly revealed to you throughout the first half of the movie, you can't wrap your head around what the hell this thing is. Like first you see this creepy ass face for a brief second when the one kid falls into the cave, but then you start to realize that that face is just like a camouflage or an evolution that a predator would use to trick its prey. Like this thing has just evolved to have a face or to mimic other creatures, and I don't know if that's actually its face or if it's just using it to intimidate people. It's just so uncanny and unexplainable. And that's the thing, you don't know anything about these monsters. Nothing is ever explained. They have all these weird features that get revealed, like they crawl underground, they snap their heads like an alligator, but way faster, and they just move in a way that is so unnatural and unnerving that I think this is the best part of the movie, is the design of its monster. You have no idea what you're looking at or how the characters are even supposed to deal with this thing. And that leads me to one of my first negatives for the movie. There aren't enough kills. You don't really see these monsters in action. They feel threatening, but at the same time, the characters are kind of defeating them with knives and hand-to-hand combat. So there's a weird disconnect. I'm not sure how powerful these things are supposed to be if Nicolas Cage can just wake up from a coma and start beating them up with a baseball bat. And I can't believe we get this rapid-fire head chopping motion from the creatures, but we don't see it chomp down on anyone throughout the entire movie. Like, I needed to see a meat grinder head explosion or something to really pay off that design. And so yeah, we see them in action, but it wasn't quite enough for me, and I would assume the lack of gore and practical effects has to be because of the budget. You can tell at various points that this movie is balling on a budget, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I'm not using it to knock or criticize the movie, because the film does a good job of working around all of this with CGI creatures that, yeah, you can tell they're CGI, but it's really not that bad. It doesn't take you out of the movie because they use really smart lighting and hide the monster in shadows for most of it. So you don't feel the budget on screen that much, but you can definitely feel it in areas where the story is lacking. The runtime, for example. This movie is a quick 90 minutes, which I appreciate, but I also felt like it could have been another 20 to 30 minutes longer if it really wanted to establish some of the story beats that it was trying to have. The Rose Farm being the biggest letdown for me. We hardly see more than a few glances at what this place is, who they are, or how they have built and maintained this farm, and then almost as soon as we are fully introduced, the entire farm is in flames and it's already over. I think some more time showing the Rose Farm and its characters, where they came from, who they are, would have really helped this movie so much. And to a lesser degree, I feel the same way about the family dynamic between Nicolas Cage and his two boys. Like, there's enough there for me to understand the relationships and to buy in emotionally, at least somewhat, to what's happening between them. But again, a slightly longer runtime or just a more focused approach with a little more depth and character development would have taken this movie to a whole nother level, because I can't even blame it entirely on the runtime. If you compare this movie to A Quiet Place, which I know a lot of people have, that movie is only an hour and a half as well, and it has way more character development and moments that get you invested in the family and the drama between the siblings. Think of the waterfall scene in A Quiet Place as a great example of this. It's such a sweet, tender moment between the characters, and we don't really get anything close to that with the family in Arcadian. And again, I think this movie is good enough for what it's going for, but I would have liked to see more of the two brothers monsters and their relationship with the father. I think we're left to imply a bunch of things, which the movie does a pretty good job of leading you to those destinations, but it would have been better if they could have taken the time to actually show you more of the relationship instead of implying it. Someone on Letterboxd wrote this review that I really agree with. They said, Arcadian is a movie that wants to be good without putting in the effort. Now, I think it's a bit unfair to assume that the people working on this movie just weren't trying hard enough, because movie making is very difficult stuff. I'm sure they worked extremely hard to get this made, and it shows because this isn't a completely incoherent mess. But I do think some extra time on the script would have been a good idea. Specifically, the dialogue between the characters, it's all very surface level stuff that never really pulled me in, because I'm sorry, both of the actors do a fine job with their lines, but the conversation between Charlotte and Thomas was just so boring. I didn't care about any of their dialogue because it just felt cliche and generic. And again, that all really bothered me because we get this lackluster build up to the Rose Farm and then basically zero character interactions before the entire thing blows up. It all felt rushed and not fully formed. We also get this insane moment during the end of the film where we see the monsters rolling around in this huge wheel, and it's like, hold on, what? They can do that? And it just felt really out of place for a movie that mostly felt like it wanted to stay grounded and scary before, and I mean grounded as far as an end of the world movie can be. It felt like this movie wanted to be more about the characters and the drama, but then this moment felt so wacky and out of place. It was something that I'd expect to see from a Critters movie rather than the movie I had been watching for an hour before then. And so that made me just think, if you wanted to go down this route with a movie that is just a crazy sci-fi action with creative stuff with the creatures, I would have actually liked that more than the movie that we saw. Because most of this movie is really slow, and it feels like it works so hard to cover up the budget with suspense, when really this movie may have been better if it just went totally crazy. Because damn, these monsters are so cool and I wanted to see more of them. And that brings me to the last thing that needed to be a little bit crazier with this movie, Nicolas Cage. This is one of the most normal roles I think we've ever seen Cage play. He's just kind of a dude in this movie. Like, he's just a boring, regular dad who is very endearing and enjoyable when he's on screen, but he's not Nicolas Cage. And to be honest with you, I'm not even the biggest fan personally of the crazy, unhinged Nicolas Cage stuff. I'm not a hater by any means. I love that it exists and I'm not arguing against it. It's just never been my personal favorite thing. But in this movie, we could have used some more crazy Nicolas Cage. He gets injured early in the film and then spends the rest of it just unconscious in bed. And then finally, in the final moments, he magically gets up and has this all dazed and crazy look to him that drew me right back in. That moment where he gets up and takes the shotgun made the entire movie worth it. In all seriousness, that was so cool, but he's just not in the movie enough, and even when he is, he's kind of playing a role that any other actor could have played. So it's a little bit of a misuse of Nicolas Cage in my opinion, but I can't deny putting him in your low budget film is a great idea to get people to watch it, and so I totally understand the casting. And yeah, if there are some positives I can say real quick about this movie so my video doesn't come across too negative, the monsters are an A+. I just wish we saw more of them. The performances are all solid. I'm excited to see more from Maxwell, Jenkins, and Sadie Soverall because I think both of them showed some potential for the horror genre in this movie. And Jaeden Martell, I thought he was really good in this role. I was surprised that he's still only 22 years old because we've known him for so long from his days being Bill in the It movies, but I'm hoping he continues to stay in this genre and make more horror movies because he's good at playing these types of characters. I didn't love him in Y2K earlier this year, but I thought he was good in this one. I also like that everyone in this movie had really bad haircuts because they've been cutting it all on their own, and I think this movie has a strong opening. It's a good cold open where you have no idea what's going on, and I like that nothing is ever fully explained. I don't think you needed to know anything more about the monsters or what happened before to make this movie work, and so I'm glad they went that route. And that's my thoughts on Arcadian. If you made it to the end of my video, then please hit that subscribe button and drop a like. I'm working hard to get this channel rolling, and I'm truly so thankful for all the support that it's had so far. If you've seen Arcadian, then let me know in the comments what you thought about the movie. Do you agree or disagree with anything that I've said? And on that last note, take care, and I'll see you next time.